The following story is titled, Who's the Cute Guy? It is a true story that has been lived, written, filmed, and narrated by Thomas Herget. I was talking to a buddy of mine. We were discussing bocce, a game that he and I really enjoy playing at our Sacramento Bocce Club, which is the East Portal Bocce Club and home of the 2004 National Open Champions. He surprised me when he revealed that he thought he was going to have to stop playing. Because of a pinched nerve, he could no longer tolerate the simple act of bending over to shoot the bocce ball. I asked him if he had thought about going to a chiropractor, and he chuckled and said that his back is in bad enough shape without it being contorted and snapped in two by a rough, crazy, fake doctor. Now it was my turn to chuckle, as I told him that he's got it all wrong. I mentioned that chiropractors have kept me healthy and walking upright for almost 50 years, and that I would have probably died a long time ago if I hadn't discovered chiropractic healing. He continued to disagree because he'd heard so many crazy stories about how the chiropractor twisted you up like a pretzel and then almost breaks you in two. That's when I said to him, "Let me tell you a true story." Back in the day, when I was taking care of my mother in her Hancock Park home as her live-in caregiver late in her life, I actually saved her life when I recognized a health emergency and took her to a chiropractor. My then 98-year-old mother used to sleep propped up on 3 pillows rather than lying flat in her bed. One morning, I walked into her bedroom to wake her up, and I found her already awake and in a lot of discomfort. She said her chest hurt every time she took a breath. I asked where the pain was located, and she pointed to her left side just below her breast. That told me it probably wasn't her heart, so I started thinking about alternatives, and a duplicate scenario flashed in my memory. In my past, every once in a while, I would cough when my body was contorted, and one of my ribs would move weirdly, get out of alignment, and press up against my lung. When this happened, I'd experience a lot of pain whenever I took a breath, because the expanding lung would press up against the misaligned rib. Now I knew that my elderly mother coughed a lot, even in her sleep. So propped up the way she was on her pillows, I figured she probably coughed in her sleep and moved one of her ribs, which is now pressing up against her lung. Confident in my diagnosis, I realized that I had to make one of two choices, and I had to make it quickly. My mother, at her advanced age, had a weak heart, and this painful condition could trigger all kinds of negative reactions. Plus, her face coloring was changing from pale to blue, which meant I had better make a decision right away. Now I could call 911 and have them take her to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, where they would follow traditional medicine, hopefully stabilize her, and eventually come to the same conclusion I had. But then what? If they didn't believe in spinal manipulation, then what would they do? Shoot her full of muscle relaxers, and then what again? Possibly even operate? All this meant was that she would spend hours in this painful condition. Or trust my diagnosis and take her to my chiropractor, who is located 25 minutes from here, and get her relief within the hour. I went with my gut. I got my mother dressed and in the car within 15 minutes and drove to my chiropractor in the valley. I called him from the car and briefed him on the circumstances, and they were waiting for us when we arrived. He sat my mother on the table, walked behind her, positioned her arms crossed over her chest, reached around her, clasped his hands together, and then gently pulled her back into his chest. I heard the rib pop back into place, and relief washed over me. I had guessed correctly. My mother's breathing quickly returned to normal, and she started looking around this strange place, and then asked, "Who's the cute guy?" You see, at this stage in my mother's long life, her short-term memory was non-existent. She had completely forgotten waking up in pain and having difficulty breathing. I explained to my mother that for the first time in her amazing life, she was visiting a chiropractor, and that this good-looking young doctor had probably saved her life. "Oh, that's nice," she said. "Thank you." Over the next 3 years, we visited the cute guy 4 more times. I finished telling my bocce buddy this story and offered him the following advice. If my frail 98-year-old mother can survive a chiropractor, so can you. He made an appointment that day and is back playing bocce better than ever.